My roommate actually gave me a homebrew kit for my birthday and thought I'd really enjoy homebrewing. About a year later, I had a fully built-out microbrewery in my garage with 8 beers on tap. So when I would go to do these samplings, I would say, I'm a woman-owned brewing company and I'm making beer with a female consumer in mind, or like I'd say like beer for women. And men would be like, what, does this have estrogen in it? Or, like they would ask these bizarre questions and I was like, okay, this is not the message.
Welcome back to Pitch and Tell. I'm Robyn Patterson, your host, and today we are talking to one of my clients who is surprisingly I've never met in person before. So it's really nice to have you, Megan.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Megan is the owner and founder of Greenwood Brewing. So for a lot of people listening or watching, I would love for you to kind of talk about your journey and kind of how you got started.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me on your show. I'm so excited to be here. I started Greenwood actually in 2014 in my garage. My kitchen graduated to my garage. I was an engineer by degree. I worked in manufacturing for about 10 years before I started Greenwood, or it was even a thought. Mm-hmm. At the time, I was living in Chandler, and I had a house that I was 24. I was solo living, and I went on Craigslist to find a roommate, and my roommate actually gave me a homebrew kit for my birthday and thought I'd really enjoy homebrewing. And turns out I did. About a year later, I had a fully built-out microbrewery in my garage with 8 beers on tap. So I was very popular back then.
Clearly.
I gave a lot of people a lot of beer and threw a lot of parties, had a ton of fun, and just really loved this product. I as an engineer, I'm working in manufacturing. I made Whirlpool refrigerators and Herbal Essences shampoo and farming equipment and electrical equipment, all those different things. And beer is really fun and puts a smile on people's faces, gives people rosy cheeks sometimes. Mm-hmm. And I just really was having a blast. And at the same time was finding that I thought that there was a market for people like me to be behind the brand. Women are fewer than 3% of brewing companies nationwide. And so I thought that there was a space for someone like me who maybe creates a space with intention and a little more polished, nice vibes, approachable beer. Mm-hmm. And so that's where I started.
That's incredible. And you obviously have you have a downtown Phoenix location and you're working on number 2.
Yeah.
Which is essentially how we got connected, which was through our friend Alenka. Is that how we got connected?
Yes,
that's how we got connected, right?
Yes.
Because I know we've been working together on and off for the past couple months on the new location, and it's just so funny how you can do business with somebody and never like really truly meet them in person because our lives are just so busy that we just get stuff done, through phone calls and emails. So it is nice to finally put a face to meet you in person. So I would love to just obviously talk about your experience with PR because you obviously have a fantastic story. It lends itself very well to the media exposure you've gotten. And when did you first start working with a PR firm? Did you organically just start getting some exposure because you are one of the very few female brewery owners in the Valley? Yeah. So I'd love to talk about that.
Yeah, I think initially when I was building my brand, I knew I needed to have an edge. Mm-hmm. And so because it's a saturated market where I like to say we're a commodity and there's a lot of craft breweries out there. And so I knew we needed to have some story. And so when I started Greenwood, I actually rented space in another brewery and I was working full time. I would brew in the morning at 3 a.m. and I'd go to work and then I'd go sell the beer in the afternoon. And I was just a one-woman show. And when I would go out, I would say that I'm a woman-owned brewing company. And actually I would say, and I make beer for women. And I started in that kind of realm to really make it known that we were like focusing on a female consumer. Mm-hmm. And I would get answers from people. I would sell my beer into restaurants. The way that I would sell it was because I didn't have a brewery. I was renting space. I was building this brand, Greenwood Brewing, using somebody else's facility, had no, brick and mortar. And so the way that I would sell this product was I would go to these different restaurants and I would say, hey, I'd love to show you my beer and have our beer on your menu. And they would say, we're all good, we're full. And I would say, well, I'm a woman-owned brewing company and all my beers are all my brewers are women, even though that was just one of one person.
Yeah.
And they would say, oh, that's really interesting. Here's 5 minutes on Friday. Bring your whole portfolio. And I'd bring my whole portfolio of one beer. I had one beer at the time called the Her Story Pale Ale. And the way that I would sell the product is I would tell them, okay, I'll sell you this beer and then I'll come back out as many times as you want, 2 or 3 times to come sample your guests, sample the guests, get them to buy some product, get them to, purchase pints and things like that. And that's how I would get in. So when I would go to do these samplings, I would say, I'm a woman-owned brewing company and I'm making beer with a female consumer in mind, or like I'd say like beer for women. And men would be like, what, does this have estrogen in it? Or, like they would ask these bizarre questions. And I was like, okay, this is not the message. I need to shift the message.
Correction, yes.
So it was like, trial and error, but I knew I needed to have this edge around the business so that people, we were recognizable in a very saturated market. I do believe you need to tell a story and you need to have a strong story to stand out. So I think from like a mindset, and now I know that's PR.
Yeah.
But in the time, it was just I felt like my business just needed an edge. And so that's where it all kind of started. And I worked with like some freelancers along the way who maybe worked in the industry, who like helped me. One of my friends, I remember the first time I was on Arizona Family, I had no clue what I was going to do. I was so nervous. And she thankfully helped me set up like a prep area and my kitchen so that I knew what to bring. I had no clue I was supposed to bring anything. And so thank goodness I had a friend who was able to help me like, hey, you're going to want to bring a bunch of good stuff to show because they want this to
visuals.
They want visuals.
Yeah. Can't just be a talking head. Right.
Then so like that was like my first time being on camera. And, then we've had, I feel like I feel a little bit more like a pro these days.
Yeah.
Now they're just in my ear and I'm just they just have the cameraman that comes in.
Yeah.
I don't even have an anchor anymore. And so like sometimes it starts somewhere.
Yeah.
So that's where it kind of started. And I have hired PR agencies since then. And it's, to me, as a business, it's vital. It's critical in certain moments, especially right now, opening a second location, no matter what, like we need that message to come across consistently. And we want to control the narrative. And sometimes you need PR for not great reasons.
Right. Crisis issues, for sure.
And people just don't even know that that's available to them. So yeah, I think it's maybe it's not an always thing for everyone.
Right.
But I think it's something everyone needs at some point.
Yeah. There's definitely industries that lend itself to having PR ongoing.
Yes.
Food and beverage is one that is easy because people eat and drink all day long. So it's one of those things where it's like you can make it relevant consistently. Whereas other businesses, like you said, it depends on the announcements or whatever it may be, whatever call to action that might be the time to look at PR, or sadly crisis issues, which are never fun. But it is important to have that representation of somebody going out there on your behalf, and whether that's giving a statement or helping correct that story. I think it's definitely like you said, it is vital.
Yeah, and it might not even be something that you did. Right. It might be something that was across the street or that was your neighbor, or someone might have said your name in something. And so it's just sometimes you just don't know how to respond. And so it's worth it to have a professional who you can rely on. Yeah,
I know. I'm not going to obviously mention anything, but I know you called me in a panic a couple weeks ago over an instance, and you weren't even involved. You know what I mean? Right. But of course, your brewery was in the background of the story. And it's just one of those things. It's like, okay, let's figure out a game plan. and just make sure you're not necessarily associated with this negative story.
Yeah.
Because obviously you don't want to feel that impact on your business. So
no, right. You work so hard to not.
Right.
And so then it's like, okay, some things just are out of your control.
Right.
So.
For sure. Do you have a favorite memory of PR? I mean, obviously the AZ family, I'm sure that was sticks out in your head.
Well, yeah, I mean, I had, I would say like some of my favorite moments are of new experiences that I had no idea even you guys deal with. So like the experience of me, Fox 10 rolling in hot. I'm the only one there trying to like do a segment. They don't have an anchor. She's like, here's my ear pod. Put it in your ear and,
talk right to the camera.
Right to the hosts, the anchors on camera. Talk right to the camera. And it's like, you don't really realize that as a business owner, you need to also know how to public speak.
Yes.
And also be comfortable just rolling with the punches a little bit in media. But I loved one of my favorite things we did was were two different things we did were it was the last published issue of Uptown magazine we were on the cover of that, and that was right when we opened, and we were also on the front cover of The Entertainer a couple years ago, and that is so cool when my friend actually owns the printing company that prints The Entertainer, and he like sent me, we had no idea if we were going to be on the cover or not, and he like sent me the issue, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. It's cool. Like, I thought those are like my favorite.
Yeah. Those are the things too that you just can't put. I mean, there is always a dollar value. You can put on anything, but you can't pay for those opportunities.
Yeah.
I mean, you can, but the value is not there versus an ad. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like you do know the value over PR, over advertising, because just the perception alone, I think when people are reading an article versus seeing an ad is so drastically different. So
yeah,
I'm sure those definitely. Do you have them hanging up in your?
I don't,
your
but
home or anything?
I have a few of them still in my like pile of PR things that I need to get hung up at some point someday. And once I have an office somewhere, because I don't have an office currently. So eventually
not your
my
garage
office,
anymore.
No, yeah, right. I know. Yeah. My real estate in my tap rooms is expensive and very important real estate. So I don't get offices there either.
For sure. Yeah.
So one day I'll have an office.
Yeah.
To put it up.
Well, and it's also impressive that you're doing all this, because we were just talking before we started taping that you have two littles, so 3 and 1.
Yep.
Obviously, I have a 4 and 2-year-old, so we're both really in it. You know what I mean? And so trying to do all of this, with business growth and juggling the PR stuff, because it is a lot. It's a lot to take time out of your day to do the interviews and carve out that time that is needed to help frame that story. I think you see that value.
Yeah.
And it's a lot to juggle.
Yeah. Yeah. And yes, it's really important, like you said, for some businesses. For us, it is important to have. Yeah.
And then obviously we touched on you being a female leader in your industry. For others that are not necessarily feel like they have the story, I think it is, it's amazing that you obviously knew from the start that you had to find your niche, your story, and fine tune it. A lot of people just come to us and they're like, I'm interested in PR, but they just don't really have much to, work with. And I think that's part of a PR agency's job, is to kind of find that story and work with business owners to kind of develop that branding, but it's amazing that you were able to kind of do that early on and fine tune it. And it's obviously worked really well. And it's, once you're savvy, I feel like with the media, I feel like, and like you said, have fun with it. If you're really stiff, it's like they're not gonna want you back on. You know what I mean? So you become so savvy to where they can just text you or call you for an interview, and that's amazing, because I feel like very few people either want to deal with that or are good in that regard.
Yeah, and I think for I've been on interviews or podcasts or whatever where my grammar was horrible and I was quoted verbatim. You have situations like that and you just don't realize, oh my goodness, this is how it's going to actually read is exactly what I'm speaking.
Yep.
Or I've said 15 times in the interview, and all of those things that you just don't really think you have time to work on as a business owner is, I would say if you can work on it for an hour just to even figure out a few stories that you are doing on a regular basis. And a lot of things might be boring to you. Like, for example, I have a colleague of mine who's going viral right now because he's home making a gift for one of his friends. He's making like a gift for them and he's making it instead of buying something. And he's just videoing his experience and he's going viral. And it's like, this is just something he was going to do anyway.
Yeah.
And so like half the stuff that we do in our daily life are things we're doing anyway. And we don't think that they're very important or newsworthy, but to somebody they are.
Right.
And so it's really figuring out, like almost stepping out, starting to ask questions to your colleagues, to your employees, to whatever, to ask them like, why do you work here? Why do you like us as your client? Why do you like us? And why do you choose us? And starting to just dig in a little bit. And you can do a lot of that work on your own before you even hire anybody. And then just figuring out then, what are the stories that you can tell?
Yeah.
And then you take that and frame it to pitch it to the right people to get the story picked up, you know? So
do you, having obviously done a little bit of your own PR and working with somebody like me or any other freelancers, do you see what is obviously the value of having somebody else do it versus yourself? Like, obviously ongoing. I mean, it makes sense with the second location, we have representation, but just, is it like just the time it takes? Is it just
the connections, the
and
constant, I mean, people in this world move daily to new places and it's like keeping up with where people are in the industry. It's a very small industry. Everybody kind of knows each other. So, it's no different than like why you would hire me to make your beer versus somebody who's home brewing.
True.
I'm going to be more professional at it. I'm going to make it more consistently. I'm going to have the right vendors to make the right product to keep it as fresh as I can and have really like high quality. Same with you. You might, I might be able to bootstrap it a little bit, but ultimately you have the connections, you're professional, you know how to tell the story, you know where to pitch the story, you know who's going to pick it up. You actually could ask the question to the person to ask them to pick it up, and that is something that we just don't have. I don't have on a regular basis. And I would want to, as a business, to continue to have a retainer with a PR agency is really important in my business, in my type of work. And, that's always the goal. And there are ways you can bootstrap it, but ultimately at the end of the day, like if you're a professional business who needs professional results, then you need to hire a PR agency, For sure.
And given your experience with multiple different types of PR professionals, do you think it's important for business owners to obviously like try to find the right person to represent them? Or is it just, you think we're all kind of one and the same? Is it based on like because like, for example, we do a lot of food and beverage, our agency. And I think that's why we keep getting referrals for food and beverage. You know what I mean? Because we kind of are in that lane. And I think that people look for that, you know what I mean? People more of a specialty, if you will. And then we never said we were a food and beverage PR agency, but it's just kind of one of those things that I think it's just once you find somebody in that specific category, I think it's like, oh, well, they already have those connections in that space. But, like we're open to other businesses in different categories. So it's kind of one of those things. It's like, is it based on just referrals? Like, do you trust like your other business owner friends and just kind of that? Obviously that's how we got connected.
Yeah.
So I was just curious, like just your experience having worked with other different firms and individuals, just kind of, do you find it to have someone better fit your brand and story, or do you feel like it's just? copy paste.
No, I think it's really important to find the right group. And I also think there are different groups for different stages. So, we've worked with somebody who has the potential to get us on Good Morning America. Well, yes, that'd be amazing to get on Good Morning America, but I can only sell my product in Arizona.
Right.
So does that really make sense for us to try to go on something like that? Yes, in a certain way, but if all these people want to buy my product, they actually can't.
Right, which is frustrating.
Yes.
Yeah.
So really it's finding the right group, the right budget, the right alignment in the industry, the right connections. Ultimately, you're paying for results.
Yeah.
So, and it's PR is really difficult to actually quantify.
It is.
But I like to say PR gets you seen. I heard this once and it just stuck with me. PR gets you seen, marketing gets you leads, and sales get you paid. But all of those things need to occur in order to get you paid. So, it just kind of, I think, yes, you want to align with the person that makes sense with you. You obviously have to fit in the same budget. If I'm going to try to be going in USA Today, I'm going to be having to spend a lot more money on a PR agency that's going to get me into nationwide publications versus really getting really heavy, amazing results locally.
Right.
And that's where we are today. Is I want really amazing results locally. Because that's where my clientele is.
Right.
We need to be focusing on where we're getting paid.
Right.
We're getting paid here.
That will drive the foot traffic for sure. Yeah. That's a great point for sure. And so any other advice you have for business owners considering PR? Because obviously I wanted this to create this space because PR is very behind the scenes. People don't even know that it is a part of a marketing strategy. You know what I mean? So it is the way I always am curious how people would describe PR to people, because I swear even to today, my dad doesn't even know what I do because I just feel like he just thinks I get people on TV every day.
Yeah.
So
But you do.
I do.
Yeah.
But he thinks I just go to parties and, you know, and it's there's so much more to it. And I don't, I think it's just the industry is really fun. It's meant to be, like you said, get you seen, and there's a lot of ways to do that. And I think like you said, you need to find that person that you can trust to do the job without having to do a lot of hand holding. Because I feel it's important to just have them take it and run with it and deliver the results that you're expecting. Because obviously it's not cheap. Marketing's not cheap, but you definitely want the results for sure.
Yeah. And that's, I think, when we don't have a PR agency on retainer, I do see the numbers changing. And I think that our best times when we're making the most, having the best revenue, is when we are investing in everything. And it's not always easy to do that because like I said, it's hard to see how much money people are spending because you were on channel 3, or channel 5 or Fox 10 or whatever, or that you're in a news article. It is hard to quantify that, but that whole funnel of the whole cake, all 3 avenues to make sure that you're getting, your top line is as high as you can get it. I mean, there are great ways to do it yourself, at least to get started. And if that's where you are, I would say have it as a plan in your daily marketing, monthly marketing, quarterly marketing goals. So include a press release and just start to get your name out there. And then as you get more and more savvy in that space, then then it makes sense to start hiring PR and getting, and really for us, that means getting visibility into our space, more people in our seats in our tap room. That's really our goal. And so getting visibility into Greenwood Brewing in general, whether that's print media, television, radio, podcasts, all of the above.
Or our favorite influencers.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
That good old industry.
Yes. Yes. the influencer industry.
Yeah.
It's funny. That is PR, right?
It is.
They kind of fall into every little category.
Yeah, I wish it wasn't, but it definitely is a part of our industry. So
yeah,
they have a strong. Honestly, I would put them even above traditional media these days.
Yeah,
especially in the food and beverage scene, because I feel like people go to Instagram or TikTok or and that's where they go to find the new spots. They follow these pages of what just opened, and we should check out this page. And there's the visuals alone, I think, sell people. So I think that's what's hard to. And then they're all divas, to work with. So they all expect the world, host me for this. And then the worst are the influencers that reach out to us. Like, hey, do you have anything you want to host me for? And we're like, no, like we'll be in touch, if we have something. But yeah, we have to I feel like I'm a therapist sometimes to have to manage like the clients, the influencers, all these egos that are kind of coming together. So
we all, yep, everybody. I mean, I think, like you said, media is shifting, and it's a new day, and it's like with AI now, it's just every day is even more different than the last.
Well, and AI is great. It's a great tool, like you said, for business owners to try it on their own. I do feel like AI could be utilized to draft quick press releases. And as long as you're doing the research on finding it and sending it to the right people and making it, not necessarily blasting it out, but making the effort to make the connection and make the relationship, because in establishing yourself as whether it's a leader in your industry or a go-to for whatever they may need, and when it comes to coverage, that's the sort of stuff I think people need to just try if they can't afford someone professional to help with, because media are looking for stuff. They're always needing experts. They're always needing people to talk to, and I think it's and everyone has a story to tell. Yeah, and I think that's the best way to do it. And I think from them taking that effort, they'll first off see how much work and effort it is, because it is a full-time job. Obviously, we wouldn't have an agency if it wasn't. But also the value. I think people will, if they try and say they get that first article, I think they'll see that, wow, like this actually can help move the needle a little bit, whether it's gain followers on Instagram or web traffic, or maybe it's a call to action and you actually see people come to an event as a result of some coverage you got. I think that's where people are like, oh, that's how it works. It just starts to click, you know?
Yeah. So. It's a lot simpler than you think it is, but at the same time, it is expensive. So, I think having a whole, if it's not something that you would do on a regular basis, having a whole end goal of what this is going to do for you. So if that means you're hosting an event, that's a great way to hire somebody from PR. You will definitely see results for that. If it's becoming an industry leader, then obviously same thing. Have that as your goal in mind. If you're an industry, if you want to be a leader in your industry, then you want to be able to say, I added this many clients, or I was in this many publications, or I got us into this magazine that makes me become an icon in the industry. Those are the types of things that I would have in mind before you just decide, okay, I want to hire an agency to help me. It's only going to help both the client and the professional agency, I think, too, because a lot of times you have these expectations and it's really difficult for the agency to meet them if they don't know what those are. And you might not, if you don't have any expectations and you don't know what you're going to get out of it, you might not get much. Right. And so then it's like, or you had a lot, you thought you were aligned and you weren't, and you're going down a totally different path with their business than what they were intending. So I would say with intention, hire an agency and have an expectation that you both come up with. Yeah. And that's a really great way to hire somebody, I think. But yeah, I mean, food and beverage, it's a must for us.
Yes. I love it. So I thought it'd be fun. I want to start wrapping up the episodes with kind of how you would describe PR to somebody, because I feel like everyone's definition is just so different. And I still I'm all over the place with the way I describe it to people. So I'm curious how you would describe it to somebody that doesn't really know anything about it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that what I said earlier was PR gets you seen is the best way that I can describe PR. Yeah. is you hire somebody to help get your business visible to people who would not otherwise have seen it. Or to people, your ideal clientele, or just the overall community.
Yeah.
And it's, if you want your business to be seen, whether that's any certain type of media, from influencer to print, to, all of them. I don't even know them all.
Blogs,
podcasts, all the things. That's how I would really describe it. It will, PR gets you seen, and it doesn't, and that should be the number one goal when you hire an agency. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
on the show and
My
sharing your
pleasure.
story and, hyping up our industry, because I feel like it is kind of like I said, behind the scenes, and it's supposed to be fun. I think we have the most fun, I feel like, out of the three.
Yeah.
The sales sound stressful. Marketing, there's a lot of, tied to money there. And like, we're just out there to promote your brand. So I think that's the fun in our job. So, but it's nice to officially meet you in person.
You too.
And I'm excited to help get Chandler open.
Thank you.